No motions,
asked me to
no-
talk.
Mhm.
I guess we can just go through kind of page by page. I had a question. I mean, we talked about the red lines, slashes, and then underline. What is the yellow and the green?
Yeah, sorry. Claire emailed me about that. The yellow was just the dates for when we
Right,
had the meeting,
right.
and so we
Okay.
just
I
need
mean,
to
it was just a clerical thing
Yeah,
put it in
that
there.
we
I
need to-
got that part.
update those. And then the green, let me pull it up just a second. Yeah,
Well, I'd just like to say I like how this is laid out. I do like, there's a lot more definitions in here that.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
bunch of definitions here that we're not dealing with. There are definitions we're only dealing with lodging. So they're in here because the document has all of those. I assume that's correct, right?
yeah, the
Yes, for
When we-
lodging,
when
yeah,
we
dwelling,
previously-
lodging, and housing.
when we previously reviewed it,
You
Jackie had
just, you
put
just
in
took all that
asterisks.
stuff out so it was
Right.
condensed it,
But
right?
when we have it written as an ordinance, it's written as it will look in code. So
Okay.
all those extra.
The red
Yes.
primarily, the new stuff that's added
Right.
in there, which is great, because
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, it's much more
Yeah.
readable.
So tell me what page are in the green one, the green edition.
Well, I don't know. I just, we go through it and I'm going like, okay, also a green, and I wasn't,
yeah, the green starts on page
I see. I couldn't do it.
11 of 33, at least on the computer paging, on the PDF.
So the green is also what has been changed by city council, but it's more of a formatting. I think it's putting things into the bullets versus all grouped
Right.
together. So
okay. So, I guess, the first couple of pages were just, getting the ordinance written up.
Mhm.
So, page 3, we have our first, well, I mean, again, it's just kind of cleaning it up. I mean, we've already gone through everything in black, so we're just looking at the stuff that's red, that's either been added to lodging stuff.
That's
And
good.
I tell you, I wasn't at that meeting when we had the joint meeting. So I'm really gonna have to rely on, I mean, that, we could just kind of go through it, but I don't know what the discussion was that brought about certain changes. So, you guys, I mean, I can go through it and add my 2 cents in, I mean, you guys need to kind of take the lead. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, I'm looking at page 3 here, and we're just really just,
Which are you using the bottom reference of page, like it's 9 of 32?
yeah,
or-
3 of
okay.
33.
Okay. All right, I want to be sure. There's just different pages.
Yeah, I mean, we've got scratch out building and put in structure, and then just leaving it fairly clean.
Yeah, a lot of cleanup.
Okay? I mean, there's no issue with any of that stuff, right?
No.
We don't have.
Correct, yeah.
I think it was,
Okay.
yeah.
Then we're getting all the way down to 4, and this was taking out that residential group R1, R2, R3, which was which I don't have any issues with. I mean, we're gonna see that all the way through. That stuff is taken out,
Mhm.
and I think that's fine. Okay, then we're getting down where it gets into a bunch of definitions. Let's see which one here, okay. Auto repair, that's not us. Not what we're doing, auto service. I'm looking at page 5, and again, it just changing the boarding house to lowercase, and then we get into
I'm not seeing quite that. Let me see what, sorry. And I think on page 5, right? On my page 5, on that.
yeah, it's right here.
boarding.
bunkhouse, the bunkhouse, so 11. Yeah, you're looking at something completely different, you have completely different numbers.
Because this is the printout for today's thing.
My boarding house is on page 432.
432,
32, do you have
I'm on 533.
33? Because there's
I
only
don't know, mine
32.
is also of 32.
Okay, well, this is the one that you sent me earlier today.
Which should be the PDF is 210921. Is that what it's called? PZ e-packet?
210921.
Yeah, that's this. Is that the same one you have, Tom?
03.
003.
E-packet 003.
Okay, here.
Well, it could be just how much, whoops. Okay, well, we're still just at boarding house. I think it's saying the same thing.
Okay, so this is actually, yeah, 4,
Well,
because yours
except
is...
these numbers are different. These
See-
numbers are completely different. You know, you have 11,
Mhm.
Okay,
See, this
this
is
is okay.
page 4 of 32, and yours it says...
533. That's-
Oh, okay, you're using the PDF as your guide. Okay, I was using the page thing. here.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, we're
so-
okay, because we're on here, but you were
Mhm.
showing me 4, but, yeah, we're okay.
Yeah, we're
fine.
good. It's
Perfect.
just,
It's just, okay,
yeah, that was this,
yeah, we're fine.
yeah, because he was,
Okay,
Mhm.
so either way, we're looking at the bottom or the
yeah.
top number.
Because if you get to the PDF pagey thing there, yeah, this is where, yeah.
So we're gonna reference
Anyway.
the bottom.
Okay, I'm sure on it.
Right.
I hate not being on the same sheet of music.
Anyway, we're getting a bunch of definitions that we weren't looking at. They're just recopied because of the,
Did you get
okay.
it?
And so we want to go down to,
Oh, you did, yeah.
I'm not sure why that's up there, but. We get through that. Okay, I'm down, commercial, down at 28, commercial, or right above that, commercial building apartment, C apartments.
Yep.
It's still just definitions,
Mhm.
definitions, see nursing homes, okay, dormitory, see housing, training establishment, that's all. Okay, let me get this. Okay. Okay, dwelling means any building, okay, they took out building designed or used exclusively for living in. Right, no problems crossing out that part on the dwellings?
No, I think that's,
Just any building designed or used exclusively as living quarters for one or more families, building fire code classification, residential apartments. Yeah, I mean, it's really just, okay.
Yeah.
So underneath this, well, we already crossed much stuff out, so that's, I don't want to look at what we already looked at. We already looked at it. Okay. And on a duplex, we just added floor extending from exterior wall to exterior wall. Okay. And so this is just bringing in the fact that you can have a stairway between duplexes, except for common stairwell exterior of both dwelling units. So the duplex, you can have a duplex, they're separate,
mm-hmm.
and then and then you can have a common stairwell. And I mean, that's exactly right, so that's
Yeah.
great having that in there. That's perfect. No issues. We're going down into, okay, and we're going to 34, 35, 36, 37. Those are, again, getting into definitions we're not looking at today. 40, group care home, guest house. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. I think most of those things are under the unit, where they have the definitions under
Right.
those. So that I like that. Organizes that a little bit clear. It's a little cleaner for me.
Yeah. I guess there is a little difference in color when you talk about something that was just added because it's part of definitions and what was changed. So now I'm looking at 48 hosted lodging unit. owner-occupied single-family residence dwelling where the owner resides at the dwelling unit while it's being rented. And we crossed out a room or group of rooms in which sleeping accommodations are furnished or for compensation or other services may be furnished by okay.
But that part has been added in the bullets. Hold on. As letter B.
Okay.
Sort of like a separate
C.
criteria.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
good.
I think it just gets broken up to be more easily read, I think.
Yeah, I would concur.
Okay.
And the green again is just the color, it was just the changes that reformat, or not reformatted, but reworded something a little more cleanly. 'Cause you
Yeah,
had-
the green, I believe, didn't really change too much of how we worded it, just, the formatting, putting it into the lettering B, C.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because everything, the 50% of bedrooms,
Mhm.
maximum 5 still
Right.
there and everything, yeah.
Okay, and then we just crossed out the residential group R1 stuff. That's fine. Take it out someplace. We got to take it out everywhere. Okay, housing unit. Oh, that's the group 1 to 3. Okay, so that's really no change in anything.
I really do like the way that you have it underneath there, that it's A, B, C, D. It breaks it out so you can, compare them and look at them a little bit differently. So it's not just, you're not bouncing around, it's all in one area for that.
So there's a line here about insurance company, any insurance agent. Is that something that's added in? And it's a different, is there a reason?
I believe that was that something city council had added?
Actually, I think it was something that the planning commission added in, and then, but it was not put in, that's part of the reformatting, it wasn't put in alphabetically. It was just within the ordinance, so now it's put into the alphabetical portion.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure the language came from you guys.
I think so. I think Rissy wanted to have a little more clarification. That's why we had that other session. And so this is the final outcome for that, I think.
Right.
And that, yeah.
Okay.
If I may down on where it says licenses, that's
Yeah.
actually my color there, the turquoise that I said back when I helped to reformat this, but when I sent it back, I didn't understand in reading it, that's why you'll see the question mark, and I'm sorry it's hard to read, but depending on the location, certain documents are required before you can legally rent. So it went from an ordinance, which is, third person to a first person, and I couldn't figure out who you was, and that sort of thing. So that's why I highlighted that, and that maybe you guys had an answer.
As far as the city license, are you referring to?
Yeah, so where it says 54, I don't think that really
Right.
fit anywhere in the ordinance, but I wanted to not take away something that if you guys put it in, I certainly didn't want to do that. I'm thinking 53.
I think it
makes
addressed
sense.
it. 53 fits it, I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
53 fits it, but I didn't feel like 54 did. But I didn't want to take it away if it was something you guys had added.
Well, because it wouldn't, it sort of begs the question on clarity, because it says certain documents are required, then it asks, then you're
Yeah, I'm not
begging the
sure
question, what certain documents are
Right,
they? That,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, okay, I mean licenses, because it's just a definition.
right, that's what I thought too.
Okay, but the
Yeah.
license, it says Community Development Department, but licenses aren't only issued by the Community Development Department.
Right.
Short-term rental licenses are.
That's true, but this is a definition of licenses, right? So it's, I mean, you have a city license, a business license, and we're just doing definitions.
Like a generic definition of
Yeah,
license.
because it's not saying,
Because this is for all land uses, not just short-term rental.
right, these definitions are for more than just short-term rental.
Yeah.
So I think you know, 53 needs to be changed. Any natural person holding short-term, well, it says, of course, is, do we change a short-term rental license? Is it a definition? I'm not sure and you have to go back. I don't remember, I don't know what we were trying to accomplish by having this in it.
Well, I see your point there, because if you take a look at, you say insurance company, you know, it talks about, you know, what insurance company is, and it applies a little to the short-term rental, but junk is just a generic definition, kennel's a generic definition.
Correct.
So you want to have a generic license definition, I guess, is what you're looking at.
Right, and I mean, in another part of the code, we can say there's a short-term rental license is required. Or we have to have, you know,
I think when you're talking about short-term rentals, that's when maybe you'd say you also are required to have a license for it, I'm thinking, if that's.
right, or you're required to have 2 licenses.
Yeah.
You know, you have a business license and a short-term rental license. So do we have a, you know, maybe here we need to have a business license, and then the definition of a business license.
And then also a short-term rental permit.
And then a short-term rental permit, because is that a license or is that a permit?
Yeah, we always call it a permit, so, I mean, I guess we could, yeah. I think, because as it comes out from the city clerk's office, it's a,
So we really need to have a definition of a business license. First of all, in here, business license is, I don't know what a good legal term on that is, but it's, I mean, it's a, you know, document that provides,
Issued by the city.
issued by the city. To, you know, grant the right to do business.
Grant
Is there another
authorization.
definition for business? We have a definition for business.
I don't know if it's in there, but the business licenses are permits issued by governmental agencies that allow individuals or companies to conduct business within the government's geographical jurisdiction.
Yeah, I mean, okay, but we need to put,
something like that.
Yeah.
we need to put something like that in there for business license. And that will be up under B. And then, short-term rental permit. Okay, work on a short-term rental permit, it's gonna be the same thing, it's almost the same wording.
But it's
But that's
narrower in
issued.
scope.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also we wanted to say that it's issued by the planning department.
And that,
Correct.
yeah, that further narrows it
Right.
down.
Okay? Can you massage that a little bit?
Yes.
And we know what we're looking for, but you find some decent wording on that and get it in here for the,
Yep.
it's okay. Are we good with that?
Yes.
And it is actually in there on page 19, the short-term rental license, definition.
Okay,
Right.
So you got one in there. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it does. have-
Well, I know, but okay.
License.
So we're gonna, well, maybe it shows up again, we don't need that second one because it's already
Yeah,
in there.
and then we can,
So it might be worth just striking 53 and 54
Correct.
together and then,
Correct, absolutely. 53 and 54
Make
come
it a
out.
little less complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
Well, then should there be something in there about that you need licensing for doing long-term rentals? 'Cause that,
Well, you know, there is something, and we haven't really looked at that, but that's that whole thing that it's been ignored in this city.
yeah.
And those people, they don't get a license, that means they're not collecting sales tax. So all over this town, there are a lot of people doing long-term rental.
Well,
yeah,
and
you
there's
have to
some,
get a business license, but that's all that's required.
Okay, if you have the
but
business
you also
license,
don't know that. Cause like I went from doing short-term lodging to long-term and did not realize until my accountant told me. So,
correct, but
Right.
that's, I mean, we're not,
I know, but it's like, if we're doing a definition,
I could,
Yeah, but that-
you know, cause that's a place to reference.
under the
Wait.
business license, I could put in
Well, that's all business though. I mean, you're
Yeah.
doing business and it's there. I don't think you need to reference. That's a
That's a-
community knowledge thing. I mean, that's a,
But it's different in this state, it's not the same in other states.
yeah,
So,
I've never
like-
seen it different in another state. If you have to collect sales tax, if you're in a situation you have to
Correct,
collect
but you
sales
don't have
tax.
to have a business license to do long-term rentals.
Technically, you do
You
here.
t-
In
you check-
here, but I'm
No,
saying in other states,
no.
so that's what I'm saying, it's different.
You probably, if you, unless they don't require sales tax, if they if you don't, because that's the main thing the business license does. It puts you
Right.
into, you have to collect your taxes and an avenue for doing that type of thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of states probably ignore it, but if you actually look like what we're doing right now,
Yeah?
they're probably require it. No, is
Okay,
everybody
disagree,
ignoring it?
'cause-
That's a
Yeah.
different thing. So yeah, I don't know that we have to, but that's a,
Okay,
you're getting to that area like when we were talking about why we wanted to push the point of showing commercial property tax. Because everybody's doing the same thing. They have no idea. They're doing this. They switch, oh, I gotta rent a room. My friends are all doing it. Let's rent a room in here. And they don't
Right.
realize that they've just crossed over into a commercial operation and their insurance won't cover them.
right.
You know, it's just like workman's comp. But we don't write a whole bunch of definitions and tell everybody and hold them at, you know, hey, you gotta get workman's comp for that.
Well,
No,
people who
you-
get businesses license figure that out, yeah.
well, they hopefully figure it out. Sooner or later, they run into
Yes.
problems and they do it.
But,
But
okay.
are we okay with where we're going on this?
Yeah, so I'll strike 53 and 54.
Right.
And put in a definition for business license and short-term rental permit if it's not adequately addressed later on.
Correct. Thank you. That'd be great. Okay. Okay. I don't have any problems with the listing sites. We're striking group 1 and 2 and 3. We're getting down to lodging, we've added something here.
Are the underlines after each one of the letters, the red lines, is that to indicate that the indent? I was a little confused what the purpose of that was. Was it just because?
Sorry, so the,
Actually, those are all struck, so it really doesn't matter. I stand corrected. That's,
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
well, looking at this, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing. I can see where someone's saying, the way it was written, it says lodging, which includes pretty much everything that people stay in. But then we said, okay, well, they could only serve meals to people staying there, which is not realistic. And I'm assuming that's what is trying to be fixed here. It's the fact that if you have a hotel and you have a restaurant at the hotel, you can serve people outside.
Right.
The problem here, it does not include motels, hotels, and hostels. But to me, those are still lodging facilities because they're doing. And so I think we're still fighting something here. And my inclination is, I think the health department requires if you starting serving meals. I know in Alaska, and I don't know if this is an unwritten rule or if it's out there in the health thing, that if you have a hosted lodging and you're only doing 1 meal a day, you're not required to have a health license for your kitchen. As soon as you start cooking anything more than 1 meal a day, you fall under a different, category as far as the health license goes.
Do you need a commercial kitchen then?
Then you need a commercial kitchen.
No. That's a whole different.
And it's a whole
world.
nother thing, so, again, and I'm not sure that we're trying to actually do something that needs to be defined here. I mean, to me, lodging units is, accommodations for a period of less than 30 consecutive days.
I think leave it there, because like the other stuff would wind, that addresses something else altogether. You're just talking about plain lodging, it's a place they living for less than 30 days.
Right, but it includes motels, hotels, and hostels.
Yeah.
So I I just would
It says it does
skip
not-
the whole part that says providing meals. I mean, that would be my inclination is cut the part about meals. And leave that for a health department issue, not a lodging. You have a,
I would think too that, I like how you said just ended at 30 days because the other definitions are now elsewhere and they would address the food part of it.
Right.
right. So,
It seems like this definition is combined with use. And I
right,
think
we're
that's-
trying to
Trying to
do
get away
two
from-
different things there and it's not a good fit.
So I guess we'll just strike the meal sentence for sure.
Well, everything after 30 consecutive
Yeah.
days.
I think that would work.
So it'll just be that first sentence.
That's it.
One sentence.
Okay.
Really straightforward. All right.
Jump into.
Okay, this whole next section is things that don't pertain.
60.
You say 60 in this time? Oh. Lumber yards.
What page are you on?
No, I'm at 15, but number 66, I'm still going down.
Sorry. Okay.
Looking for something, because we're like marijuana, mobile home park.
Where are you?
Multi-story unit, that's just a cleanup thing, skip that. Area, parks.
Office.
Okay, so I'm down at 104 and we're striking the group R, R1, R2, R3 again, that's fine. Okay, so I'm at 106.
Short-term rental here.
And then short-term rental transaction.
Less than 30.
You know, that's fine. I mean, I'm not sure what we're trying to accomplish by that, but it's there. Okay. Any comments? I mean,
I
just going
just
through
have a
this.
quick question on, because we were saying we were gonna find something for short-term rental as far as defining, this is self-contained homes that are rented for short periods of time, with the rest of that. Is that where we put in, anything about, the meals, or would that be an appropriate place? I don't know.
Well, this, a short-term, this one, not here, because this is a short-term rental, which means I'm renting my house. If they're gonna cook for themselves, nobody's there cooking for them.
Okay,
Okay, so keep that in mind.
okay. Or is that the other one was lodging? Yeah.
And short-term rental comes up again later in the ordinance that will address that.
Okay, great.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
waste facility. All right, let's shoot on down here again.
09,
Townhouse, transient. Is the, I've noticed throughout this, a lot of these things that are temporary, is there a reason for the 150 days, you know, when you have employee camping, campgrounds, temporary stuff, now we have the transient, like merchant, is there something unique to 150 days? Or is that just because it's the tourist season? Kind of? Well, I don't know if there's something that goes back on a nationwide, that, at some point in time, someone decided that was a
The magic number.
magic number.
It's just a question, I'm not questioning it, I just was questioning,
And if,
But if everybody's good with it, I'm good, I just my ignorance on that.
Right.
I can answer on employee campground if you want to know that.
Sure. I mean,
I don't know the history of it, other than I am actually working with someone on an employee campground.
Right.
And honestly, eventually you guys will have a CUP before you, and council will have a resolution. But, it sounds like it originated with that having, and I know like this much to be dangerous about the fishing industry.
yeah,
And what species comes in, so that originally the employee campgrounds were open for those dates for the species.
Oh, the fishing.
Yeah, but things have changed now, so there is a provision with the employee campgrounds where the council can extend the dates. And like I said, I am working with a company that's going to request that, and they also need a CUP. They've always needed a CUP, but it's time for it to come back to you.
right.
So that's, but that's what I was told, but then in that other section, I don't know.
Okay,
No idea.
okay.
Yeah.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, you know, right, I think it just had to do with like that period of time, and I do think it was an Alaskan thing, and it was just, that's what it was, and it's been there, and like,
Okay.
when you start talking about the tourist season, our tourist season's becoming longer than 5 months, you know, type of thing, and, but then we have to start looking at, and when it comes up, it's, you know, this is what us as the last, say, maybe 4 or 5 years have been trying to work is temporary period of time, or is temporary for a year or two until you can get developed permanent. Is temporary something short of permanent to get you to permanent, or do you get to do temporary forever? And we've been saying, no, temporary, we're trying to switch this. We're trying to put temporary is not forever.
Right.
Temporary gives you tent city so that you can get established enough that you can then do a proper permanent.
So it's a
Logic.
transitional kind of position.
Right. And so for the last couple of years, we've been pushing towards making, and I think we told Polar last year that this last year was, well, maybe it's 2 years ago because nothing happened last year at all. But that was going to be their last year with tents. They needed to put in something more permanent than
Tent city.
Tent City. So, and that would be something we definitely would need to have as it comes up. And this is, you know, if we're having a CUP coming up,
Yes.
because we're switching into something.
Alright.
And if it hasn't been discussed with them in that light, I mean, this is where a lot of public opinion about, you know, what we're doing. I mean, do we have KFT and Major Marine and the kayak companies and everybody else in town says, hey, let's all have, you know, we'll just put tents everywhere, because we used to have them on the mountainsides. And all the way up Exit Glacier, there are tents everywhere. And, you know, and are we, you know, so that's up for nice issue.
Yeah, it is in the code that
Yeah.
employee campgrounds are allowed.
Right,
So they cannot be made permanent because they are allowable use.
right.
So, just keep that in mind as you're dealing with the CUP that will come before you, that they are, an employee campground is allowed to remain temporary. So just, I've been working with the attorney a lot on this one.
Okay, well, and that's exactly, you know, that's exactly what we needed. Is we're going a direction, and, you know, we've had, you know, the issue in what is actually, and of course, if that's definition, but that's,
That's the complexity you guys have going
Right.
on here. So eventually, anyway, that'll come back to you.
That will
A
come
lot
and-
more
and-
information than what I
Right.
just said.
okay, let's keep going here. Because I have an airplane to catch tonight.
Okay, we'll speed through this.
Okay, let's see. Code, land use allowed. It's just, so we're just crossing some stuff out there because it's already been described.
Which part are you at?
Well, I'm at, we're at 15.10.226, land use allowed. And B, we have lodging. And then under lodging, we have definitions.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that's being scratched out because we already have a definition.
Correct.
Okay. You know, is this whole next section here, a bunch of stuff crossed out? I can't tell. I see a fine line. Insurance company, leasee, that's
Yeah.
all because we discussed it before.
Yeah, those are all
Okay,
struck.
all right.
I have a question on the whole house nightly. What's been crossed out says in what districts it's allowed.
Okay, where
But
are
where
we?
it's written up at number 123. So it's crossed out on page 23 of 32 in the middle of the page. And
Oh,
you-
123, okay.
Yeah, 123.
Whole house nightly.
That's
Okay.
still there though.
It's
This is-
because it's in, now the definition section instead in under 123 versus being put as in 226.
Okay, so it says somewhere else which is zones the whole house
Correct.
is allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
No, actually, under the definition, it does not.
No, it'd be under land use, wouldn't it? Where it's allowed? Whole
Because we're
house
still in
nightly.
definitions and,
Non-hosted lodging unit which
Getting
owners.
rid of not.
No, he moved to 226.
I was just curious because in the hosted unit list in the definitions for the hosted unit, it does list the zones that it was allowed in.
oh, in the
So
back.
I was just curious if we wanted the whole house nightly to say the zones as well, or just to be consistent.
That's a good idea, Courtney, so back within the definitions,
Yeah,
you're
back
saying to
in the-
list the zones?
Yeah, either to have it listed in both of those definitions or to list it somewhere else if we don't want it in the definitions. I
Yeah,
just
I missed that.
know, here, sorry, let me pull up. Yeah, on page 10 of 32,
That's-
where we define hosted lodging unit,
Mhm.
the D, letter D says which zones it's allowed in.
Yeah, hosted lodging is allowed in R1, 2, 3, RR, R3, and the OR zoning district.
So do we need to put then under whole house, which zones we're allowing whole house rentals in? Under the definition, or to move both of those?
Let's see.
I think that makes sense under the definition. of the
Okay.
other one.
That's another one of those confusing areas. Because you have a hosted lodging unit. And if you read that right here, you'd say, well, you can't have a hosted lodging unit in something other than the Rs. But but they exist, so I mean, you have to have them. I know later on it talks about there's a slightly different use because in the Rs, the R1, 2, 3, and so forth, you could only rent up to 50% of your rooms. When you start getting into the commercial properties, you can rent more than 50% of the rooms, up to 5. As soon as you go over 5, you're a hotel. So, but it's still a hosted lodging unit, even if you're renting more than half your rooms. Where definitions get convoluted. So I know I read this here, then it goes later on in the area, it talks about if you're in the other zones, what you can do.
So maybe all the zones should be struck from this, because then you would look at the land use table for that stuff. Because it has potential variability too.
What was the purpose of wanting to list it in two places? Was that just for clarity's sake?
Well, I guess that's my question are the zones listed then in the land use section below the definitions?
Correct. I mean, it
Yeah.
is in the land use.
I mean, I think
And we're gonna get into it, we're not gonna make them perfect.
right.
And because because then you're gonna have a definition for every single thing out there, and it gets over convoluted.
But yeah, I mean, with hosted lodging unit, it is confusing that they don't have the CB district or
Right.
C district, because I mean, basically in every district you can have a
Right.
hosted.
Yeah, my thing would be, because I think we do talk about it later on, we'll go down, I think we get to it. So I think we probably should strike that whole line D.
Okay. D. And then just put the zones in the land use section.
Well, I think when we get down to some land use, it starts talking about where you have the hosted, lodging units. We'll have to look at it, because, I mean, we've traditionally done, it's okay to have hosted, basically R1, R2, or R1 is the main one. But hosted lodging units are accepted, but whole house rentals are not. And the same thing with, well, if it's a non-hosted lodging unit, then it's a hotel, even if it's got fewer rooms, because nobody's there. Let's see if it comes up. Let's
Okay.
keep that in mind and see what we have later on, and see how it words out. We were down at, where were we at? What are we down here? We're on page 22, if I recall.
Land use allowed, the 1510-226 area?
Yeah. Okay, so right now, if we think that we're going to strike it out before, then right here, this is also, or we're not going to talk about what zones. Because really, right now, we should just be doing a definition, and then we need to describe what zones. That's separate, in my opinion.
Well, I think that's the definition.
I think we do get down there. Okay, land use allowed, okay, right underneath here, okay. Let's see, lodging. What do we get in here? Okay, well, I guess it's striked out here. We have hosted lodging unit is allowed in R1, R2, R3, but that's struck out. What do we have? And all other, so I'm on page 24 of 32. Okay, and it's number 4.
Right.
It says, the hosted lodging unit is allowed, R1, the same line we were just talking about before. Here it's struck out. And I'm assuming it must be struck out here because it was already up there,
In that previous.
in the
area,
previous
that way.
one. Okay.
Where is the best place to put it then?
Well, because right underneath here, we go into all other residential districts, lodging within single-family residence and duplexes limited to the home occupation with business, okay? Within commercial districts, lodging is limited to the rental of not more than 5 guest rooms. So, even though we don't list out in all other residential districts, lodging within single-family residence and duplexes is limited to the home occupation within a business principal place of residence and to the rental of not more than 50%. I mean, this is where it should be.
That's what I was thinking,
Okay.
because you're defining where people can be, where they can be at. The other one is just a definitional thing. This sort of gives you
Correct.
where the areas it can be.
And it is under land use.
Yeah, the use of it, that
Okay.
actual area, as opposed to just regular definitions.
So it could be, we can just strike it out up above. We can leave it because under, I'm looking at, I guess it's the dark 5. It talks about residential districts. You could say, oh, I know what we're missing. In all other residential districts, somewhere in here it talks about R1.
That's up on the page above it, number.
No, well, actually it doesn't matter because it carries a cruise. It's actually whole house rentals are not allowed in R1.
Right.
But this is fine. In all residential districts, and this is, it's where it says in all other residential districts, it should just say in all residential districts. Lodging within single family, or it can say, you know, here we're going into redoing the thing, it should just be saying hosted lodging units. In all other residential or in all residential districts,
Hosted lodging unit.
hosted lodging units,
Within single family duplex limited to home occupation.
well, that's the definition of it. You don't have to re-say that again.
Yeah.
It's just, it goes right into the rental not more than 50% of the bedrooms to a maximum of 5.
And that automatically eliminates whole house rental. Yeah, so you don't have to even worry about that,
Well, whole house rentals is a different definition.
right?
So yeah, this is my confusion. Number 3 and number 5. What is the difference?
Oops, where am I? Oh, I'm
So
going the
number
wrong
3
way.
is on the page above.
Previous 3.
Okay.
That's like the same.
Is there a difference?
Within a single or two-family residential lodging is limited to a home occupation within a dwelling. No, it's exactly, that should be completely struck out. Because it doesn't really matter if it's a single, those are the districts within a single or two-family residential district.
Yeah, so this is limiting it to R1 and R2.
Right, and that is what it was. I mean, the new language, okay, so I see what's happening. In number 3, they're saying in R1, R2, you're limited to the 50%. And down below, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, 3 and 5 seem to be almost the same thing to me.
So here's the question, because we really didn't the 50% rule holding true for R1 and R2. Where here, the way this is worded is it's in all residential districts.
Because that would imply residential 1, 2, or 3.
Right, and you know, and this is where I thought there was objection to before, and so I'm not. I mean, this is I've got to. I'm not sure where we had, you know, what the clarity on this was, but I'm okay with it just saying all residential districts is 50%.
Because that's what it is, really. So it's, it makes no, I don't think there's really any problem. I don't think there's any disputing that. I don't think.
Well, I don't. Do we know if
From my understanding, all residential districts have to be 50% if it's R1, R2.
R3 can be a whole house.
Oh, it has.
yeah? See, well, that's going to be under whole house. So we're not going into a whole house here. Whole house here. This is strictly hosted lodging units, correct? That's what we're under?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Hosted, yeah.
so, you know, the question is, and where I really had a question is, and I've always considered OR more of a commercial district, not a residential. To me, the split between residential and commercial was OR.
I would concur with that because that's when I had our bed and breakfast back in the day. It was, we live in an office residential and there's a real big bag of stuff. There's offices and there's a restaurant, there's a variety of different things there. So it's not just a
Right.
neighborhood.
So is this the question that says, we gotta say, hey, in OR, is it okay to rent more than half your rooms? Or is OR residential? And if we didn't get this before, I thought in our original discussions, OR was kind of put into commercial, but we've got some rewording here that's popping back in.
Yeah, I can't answer that. Because I know back before it was always office residential, we still
Okay.
had to do 50%.
Well, what I think we should do is, I would like to leave it just residential and commercial. Leave it that way, and when it goes back to, we have time, we'll see this again. If we put some more thought into it, and make a change at our next meeting when we approve this to send it back up to council. And council, I mean, this is one of those little definitions, if somebody has a real feeling about it, they're talking about a couple lines, and it's just really moving you know,
It'll be a much smaller change if necessary at all.
right. So, what I'm thinking is we want to eliminate the, where hosted lodging units are allowed, back up on page 10, just eliminate that. Right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then here, we want to eliminate that number 3 that we were talking about a minute ago. Because that's double talking.
Yeah.
So, because I guess when you were saying it was talking about hosted lodging, you know, I kind of understand. So number 3, I guess, is just defining that you can only have a hosted lodging unit, and you can't do a whole house on a nightly. But then number 5 is just saying if you're in other residential areas and you do a hosted lodging unit, you still can't rent out more than 50%. Is
In the
that right?
residential.
Yeah. I guess I just want to make sure that we have it written somewhere that it's clear, that it's clearly defined that R1, R2 are only hosted lodging units and not whole house on a nightly. Does that make sense?
Right, and it also could be made clear in the land use table.
Which, yeah, I mean, definitely can, but that change won't come until later.
Right,
And we'll need to implement this
right.
now.
Yep. But we're gonna, you know, between the two things, people can take advantage of us.
Oh, they will.
They can get in there and build a couple buildings and get them in before we get the changes done.
So my understanding is we're striking 3 altogether, right? On page 23 of 32, is Bowlegs, red Bowlegs 3. That goes away. Is that my understanding?
That's what I'm thinking, because it's really saying the same thing as down
It's
below.
5,
And
yeah.
we need
Yeah.
to rephrase 5 slightly, right?
Right,
In all residential districts,
in all residential districts.
lodging. Should that say hosted lodging?
Well, it's hosted lodging. We are
It's under-
talking
it's under,
hosted,
yeah, the Thorold River.
right. This,
I think it's
Is
just,
it?
it's just
I don't
lodging.
think it is. 'cause
oh,
the
okay,
land-
then I am
land use
completely
is
confused, and I'm
allows.
saying something that's wrong.
Yes, we might need
Okay.
to have a few more words.
We need to, I missed that. I was,
Cause it,
You're
well, it's,
right.
it's been struck, so yeah.
Oh.
Let's make sure we.
okay, my bad.
So if it says in all residential districts, hosted lodging is limited to a home occupation within the business, and then blah, 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 50%.
Well, that
Would
would
that
provide
cover
that,
it?
that's clarity. 'Cause it
Right?
said
What
we
did you
would
say? I'm
imply
sorry, Vanessa.
hosted.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So in all residential districts, hosted lodging is limited to a home occupation within the business owner's principal place, rental not more than 50%, maximum of 5. So just changing kind of that first sentence more.
Well, I think even putting hosted in there reinforces the
Yeah,
fact
and then
that
that's also that it's
it's-
hosted, so we do have that. Since it is struck from above.
Yeah, some of it's repeat, but I think it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so that's in number 3. Or that's where we're changing to number 5.
Right.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, so we're still striking 3.
Yeah,
Pretty
3's
fine.
good,
Okay.
5 is
Correct.
modified.
Three were
Okay,
number
I
5.
got it. I'm on the same page. All right. Okay.
So yeah, all that will move.
That's the black 5. and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
the- Okay.
And then
The red 5 is within commercial districts. You know, right,
Is
we
it-
need to push back, because like even in here where they're scratching out OR and just saying commercial, because you have auto commercial, you know, central business, well, central business doesn't say commercial, so is OR commercial or not? So that would end up coming up in the land use table, I guess.
I think so.
Okay,
Start defining those.
all right. And this is, when we first started talking about this, way back forever, I tried to get 2 different definitions for hosted lodging unit. One for residential hosted lodging and commercial hosted lodging. So that we didn't run into this problem. So, okay, are we good on everything here?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, we'll keep going down, down. Anything else? We're doing okay.
Yeah, transient merchants, I'm on page 2632, that 150 days shows up again.
Okay,
Jumps that at me.
so I'm all the way down at 29.
We're out
So we're at the short-term rental.
there. 15. Yeah, that's sad that you have to actually say that, but not rent space in accessory structure, storage, garage.
So this is where, do we have it in here someplace where short-term rental is not allowed in R1, R2? Is allowed? Short-term rental location. I'm not sure what that last line is. So this I mean, I know this was an area of some contention. Did city council bring up anything in here that I missed during that meeting?
No,
I don't recall.
like our biggest discussion was about duplexes.
But,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I recall. That there was too much, and mostly it was kind of just that it was, to make it legible, so it was clear,
okay,
everything going on here.
And to that point, that's kind of why you see originally you saw short-term rentals kind of mixed in with definitions. And now it's got its own section there to further, allow
Right.
for more clarity.
Clarify.
And if I remember correctly, there was a lot of discussion about insurance,
Yep.
but I think at the end they agreed that it should be.
Agreed, yeah.
That's what I.
Yeah,
remember.
that's the insurance is the
Same
big push
takeaway.
as I recall.
Yeah.
This is also too, remember we were talking about permits and the rest, this is, they actually talk about here is where they define that a little bit better. Or not define it, but they mention it.
Annual permit.
It says annual business license and annual permit are required, right there. So that's, we didn't have to have it somewhere else, it's right in this thing right here.
okay, right, because this is short-term rental in general, which is both
Right.
whole house. So we don't have anything in here that defines where whole house rentals cannot be.
The land use table should indicate that.
That's what I was
Okay.
gonna say. I think that's separate.
You guys know that better than I.
Um,
I wouldn't be so sure. Do we have to edit that stuff?
I'm just,
Should that just be a liner, one liner in the land use table then?
right,
Just throw it in, make sure
Okay.
it's there, very clear.
right,
Can
that's
we,
fine.
yeah, I mean, can we update the land use table now, or do we have to wait until
Well, no, we'd have to bring it all forward
6
and,
months?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it was on our agenda forever, but I know it wasn't on tonight, so I don't know.
well, I think,
So-
the land use
Not
stuff
in
that
case.
we're working on, that we've been working on, or been trying for a couple of years, is not specifically trying to change things right now. It's trying to get ahead for the master planning. In that, one of the things we've kind of felt was, we go to this every 10 years or 15 years, we get everybody together and they talk about the whole city. And we wanted to break it up and start looking at just the residential area and have that group of people focus on their area, what they wanted.
Right.
And that would spin off and make it much easier to, decide how to handle things, but, zoning
Right.
and everything, what do we want to do? And get more substantial where, let's look at commercial, instead of having commercial districts, looking at residential. Just kind of split the city up, I think we want to split it up into 6 sections.
Is that
And
the
then-
ground truthing? Is that the ground truthing you were referring to?
Well, ground truthing is the information we need, because, that whole thing started in like, how many hosted lodging units do we have? How many places are being used for what? How many people have their businesses in these areas? And you can't really make good land use judgments
Without that
and decide
information.
without that information. So the ground truthing is just trying to find out truly what's happening in that area. So that's just a tool to provide us the information so that we can make better judgment calls on how to look at the land.
Got it.
So, I mean, if we have some little gaps, I mean, mainly what we're doing here is reducing a lot of the gaps. If we don't get them all to this year, we've had 100 years to get to here. We're making some improvements. Are we going to get it all? I don't know.
Try.
I guess that's where I'm at
Okay.
on some of that. So yes, but I think in the land use table, it probably says something, and I have to go back and look at it, and I usually bring that book with me so I can just refer to it.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the land use table right now just to reference.
Because if it offers a point of clarity for people, that might be helpful.
All right, so it's gonna, more defined.
Because I think currently it just has, so it has lodging, comma, B&B, comma, rooms, duplex, and accessory apartment. And then a lodging, hostel, and then lodging, hotel, motel, lodge, inn. And then lodging in a multi-family dwelling apartment.
Right. So it doesn't really.
It doesn't say whole house on a nightly or, hosted.
So under lodging, backing up here, we actually could put a new line in that defines that.
What page on lodging?
I'm trying to go back to where,
Is that still?
where were we on? Huh. I'm not used to this computer yet. Short-term rental is defined.
Are you talking lodging on page 1232, that area?
No, I was looking more at what we were just looking at a little while ago.
Okay, and it would be,
It's in the 22 area.
so it's not.
Okay. Short-term rentals. Okay, so the other stuff was under whole. So we could do it under, that's struck out. All right, so this struck out here. The definition for short-term rentals. Well, I'm not following that. I'm looking at page
Page 29.
23 of 32.
23.
And going back a little bit, because we have the whole house nightly, which is struck out. Oh, okay, never mind. I'm still getting confused. I'm confusing myself.
Are you talking whole house nightly,
No, we have the-
123?
Okay, so here it is. So we have the land use. I'm looking at page 22 of 33. So it's the land use allowed. It tells the tables, and it says lodging.
Right.
And we said lodging is so underneath lodging, we've gone down and said the hosted lodging, we've defined where hosted lodging is allowed, right?
But that's crossed out on
Yeah,
that
this is, we
page.
have not.
You defined it in the definition for hosted lodging, but did not for whole house.
So should that be put back in?
Well, probably under the definition,
Under
because
the-
it says lodging as defined in section da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So part of the reason why it was struck is not to have the definition of, again, put in the
Redundant.
land
Correct.
use.
Yeah.
All right.
But if it does mess up the land use, you can put hosted and whole house under use, meaning you can put where it's
Authorized use.
allowable.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, the authorized use is
Right.
on there,
in the land use section.
because it's not, you're not defining it, you're actually saying
Right.
where it can be
Right, right.
operated again.
Yeah, and that's where we're under that's where I'm in the land use allowed. And then we have, you know, A is the table, and then B is just lodging. And then
And everything else.
there's a bunch of stuff crossed out, and regardless of the date, you need the permit. And the parking. And then we go down and we go in all residential districts, lodging within a single-family residence is restricted to hosted lodging.
Well, maybe that's in that area somewhere, you can put the, you know, what the allowables for the whole house lodging thing in there, since it's under all of that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we have it right here under lodging, then we specifically state in all residential districts to in all residential districts, hosted lodging is restricted to home occupation within the business owner's participation, 50%. Okay? And then within commercial districts, hosted lodging is limited to the rental of not more than 5. So that we can go right underneath that and say whole house,
Lodging is authorized in,
it's whole house short-term lodging. Or whole house lodging, right, just whole house lodging is restricted to R3 through central business.
Yeah.
But not industrial, right, not, you don't want to make sure those don't get in, it's not all of them.
I think that's good having that there, because it's, all of these seem to talk about the areas where you can actually have permission to do things.
Okay.
Organized.
So the,
Yeah.
so the whole house would be R3, and we're doing RR, rural
Yeah.
residential,
Uh-huh.
and then all the commercial.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. And OR. I still don't know if OR is commercial or
Yeah,
not
I don't really
commercial.
understand why. Not all the commercial, right, is allowed in an auto?
I think everything could be in auto commercial.
Yeah, auto commercials.
Okay. Sure.
No, because our auto commercials right along our major roads where we put hotels and things and all that kind of
Gotcha,
jazz.
right,
So,
right.
you know, it's just,
Okay.
the auto commercial just opens it up for a little bit more.
Maybe a garage.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, so I'll just add that in as another number,
You're gonna be our
That
savior.
area.
whole house, okay.
But
Now come up with a different color.
new challenge.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, did we have any, I mean, I went through this, I'm looking down already at 30 of 33. And this is really going in that you're gonna have to have your permits,
Yeah.
annual business license. If I'm reading this, you pay, you get inspected when you first opened up, you don't have to be inspected every year.
You do get
Yeah.
No, I meant the whole place. Okay, good, because that's what we said. Okay,
I like the thing about the short-term rental insurance requirements. That sort of protects the individual as well as, I think, potentially any fallout,
But-
litigation.
right, well, there's other areas where insurance is required. You look at the boating industry, you know, it's required. So we're not really breaking new ground and stuff, we just know we have a safety issue within our city. And the city's making a step to clarify that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So,
Well, just so the thing is, like, you have to ensure that even if your insurance company doesn't insure you for your lodging business, you need to let them know as well, because a lot of times they won't insure you if you have a home insurance. So that's why you have to make sure everybody sort of knows, because that could get pretty ugly for the person who owns the home. If their insurance is, well, you're holding a business in there that we don't authorize, and therefore you won't be covered.
okay, so I'm on this 3133 and looking in the light blue 11-8. I think we should change this fee thing to like $25 instead of $150.
Yeah, which department?
That's what that was my note too. I didn't know which department that referred to.
Would that be?
Hmm?
The notification and executing, submitting a form affidavit provided by the department.
Oh, where are you looking at? I missed
That's
it.
on the 31 of 32, which is actually, but your numbering is
Yeah,
a little
just-
different. Short-term rental insurance, toward the back page of that one, there's the blue highlight as to which department would be involved in that process.
under short-term rental insurance requirements.
Okay, that's good. And health, safety, number of, division.
I would think with just, in order to have the permit
Oh,
for
here.
the B&B or whatever it is, you should have that available, and you guys issue it, right, in community development, their permit?
Right.
If they provide to you the insurance, the verification of the insurance, it
Oh, I
should
see
be
what you're saying.
it has to go to you guys, I'm thinking.
Yeah, and
I
I mean,
could be
that's how
wrong.
it currently is. We request the insurance to be part of their full application
For
they send to
their
us,
package.
yeah. So,
Would that
Well,
make
it's
sense?
it's the planning
Yes.
department, this is,
Oh,
yeah, the community development.
yeah, okay.
Is that the question?
Yeah, that's, because that's the blue, that's what she was.
Right, okay.
Wanted to be sure that we nailed that down.
Okay. Yes, community
Is it
development.
worded correctly? Maybe I'm mistaken. The licensee shall verify compliance with this notification requirement by executing and submitting a form affidavit provided by the department. Should it not be to the community development department?
True, unless there is a form that the community development is going to
Just
provide to
confusing
them,
it.
the affidavit for it, but it makes sense, it should be provided, you know, if
I don't-
nothing else, a copy of the.
What does community development think?
so yeah, that wording.
Yeah,
we're
sorry.
trying
It's like
to-
it sounds weird to me.
So we're trying to say the licensee is submitting a form affidavit. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like it should be provided to community
To
development.
community development?
Yeah,
Yeah.
even if it's provided by.
Yeah,
you
even
know
if
what I
you
mean?
provide the form, they're providing it to you. So
Back to you,
they could
sign.
come up with their own form, or you can provide them a form, but they're still gonna give it to you.
To- Okay.
What the form looks like.
Yeah.
Good catch, Vanessa.
Sorry, yeah. I don't know. my brain.
Now, my
Alright.
question is, the $1,000 potential fine, how is that enforced? Is that a,
That's always gone through the city administration.
Okay.
The rub is that we don't have a code enforcement person, so there
Correct.
is a rub that we're trying to work on internally to figure out, so,
Okay.
yeah.
New position.
Yeah, the problem with getting, and I understand why they don't do it, see, we put a lot of rules in place to satisfy one group of people, and then we don't enforce it to satisfy a different group.
And it's gonna blow you off. Is there is there a correlating a state statute to that? Because I know like in law enforcement, you know, the city has all these different ordinances and stuff like this, and if you break that ordinance, there's really no muscle to it, and so what they do is they use the city, or the state's, statute or code or something like this. Does the state have something
No,
comparable?
because we're home rule,
Oh, yeah.
we don't apply, only portions of Title 29 are applicable to the city, so the city can do anything that's not illegal. And so, no, and this, the fine is also out of our charter, so it's already defined,
Okay.
so.
So the only thing I do there, and the one thing I like, the $1,000, I could see virtually any significant sized business saying like, fine, here's your $1,000, and then don't do anything. Okay, now their permit is revoked, but then, you know,
So we can legally sue at that point, so,
sue for what?
Non-compliance?
you know.
Non-compliance to shut them down?
Right, right.
So, I mean, can you just put up a, I guess at some point in time, when you sue, do you take somebody to court and then prove that they're not compliant and then go down and put the posters up that says this place is closed?
We could, you know, honestly.
And that is such a drastic, would fining happen before that?
Oh, yeah. Finding and meetings would happen before that. I mean, you know, we don't want to, actually, meetings would happen before the fine.
Correct.
So we don't want to shut
Correct.
anyone down or fine
Right.
anybody, so, you know, especially if it's someone who's like, oh, didn't know. I
Oh,
had
absolutely. Yeah,
And
in
then
the last
there-
2 years, we've been ignoring a whole bunch of stuff,
Right,
so
right.
and telling them, hey, you gotta fix this.
one. Right, right.
And of course, we're gonna get everything done last year, but COVID came and
Sure,
we didn't do anything, so.
sure.
But anyway, the idea was to give everybody a chance, even though they might have been even some of the,
Yeah.
well, not the worst safety codes, but some of the things that weren't the best. So my only thing is should it be like per day? And it says up to, but if soon as you say something like per day, then that number becomes,
Well, Tucker
You
factor.
have to read that charter provision, that's the charter provision, 1.05010, so we have to read the charter provision to see what
Okay.
it allows.
Yeah.
And I don't know that one off the top of my
Okay.
head. I'd have to read that, but, I don't know if I can get to it.
You have some meat on some of those fines, I guess, like you're saying, because other people might just, really split it off. Oh, danger close to the garage.
Yeah, there it goes again.
Boy, what is going on?
All that wind.
We've had 4 of them, 3 or 4 of them.
lots of trees are falling down on lines.
On the lines.
And we are on generator rate now, generation.
Well, one winter we were on generators for 3 months.
I don't know.
Yeah, but they
We had to
definitely
go to
want see
FEMA to
that
get
electric
money for
bill.
paying for the diesel. It was really.
So please no. I can't quickly get to the charter, so, but we'd have to look at the charter provisions
Okay.
to see what it says.
Well,
Well,
that's at least written in and stuff like that. I'm good with what we have.
I
Yeah,
do
I
too.
think so.
I think we did a pretty decent job. 'Cause, I'm really happy, I know a lot of people did a lot more work before I got here, because you guys have been working on this stuff for years, haven't you?
Since 18.
So this is fairly new for me, so.
Yeah.
So do you want to see these changes that I'm going to make at another work session, or just bring it to the next meeting as an ordinance resolution to be approved and you'll review them real quickly then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess when you bring that forward, if you can make everything black except for what you're changing right now.
Right now? Okay. Yeah, that'll be a lot easier to see.
See, Yeah, so anything you switch around and stuff like that, because we've already agreed on everything before that.
Yeah, we're good.
Good.
And
Don't
you're
be
alone now, aren't you, Courtney?
What?
No, she has no.
Well, Jackie's gone, right?
Well, yeah, but we have, what's
Taryn.
our?
Taryn.
Taryn,
yeah.
Taryn is our planning assistant.
Yeah. No, she's rolling full blast. Man,
Yeah,
if she didn't know that she'd been thrown into the fire. That's all right, we'll get through it.
you'll keep me
Doing
from
great.
burning
You're
too
doing
much.
great.
No, we're rooting for you, Courtney.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that, Gary.
And she's really fast on emails coming back to you and stuff. The questions I send her, she's on it. That's huge.
So do I get one of those gadgets you guys are looking at? or-
That's right. Sorry, Gary. Yeah, you've been out the past couple meetings and we distributed them. I do have one for you.
What are they called?
They're called Surface.
Surface Pros.
Service Pro,
And I can
Workbook.
I can
They're a little
schedule.
computer.
You can come in if you want. I can schedule a time to meet with you, and I can
Show you how to.
Okay,
give you the full training.
Full training?
Yep.
I need it. I can't even use my cell phone.
all right, does anybody have anything to add, or are we done?
We're good to go.
Were we gonna talk about a hiatus or something?
I think that has to be the next one, or?
Why?
Well,
That was a discussion even.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm good for
Yeah.
hiatus.
I guess maybe just briefly which months we would be looking at, and then it will be. Then I'll bring it as an agenda item at the next meeting.
Well, what month are you due?
So I will be out on maternity December, from the beginning of December through, I wouldn't make the first meeting in February, so December, January, February. I would
Well,
be out 'cause-
yeah. Traditionally, we have skipped our meetings in December.
Okay,
Okay, it's dark, a lot of people travel as family. I wouldn't want to try and skip anything else because we don't know what's coming up.
right.
And some of the things, we'll
Move quick.
we'll muddle through. There are other people that can, we'll work it out, we'll get it. There's other people who can handle things and stuff like that, and, when the administration knows how to shuffle things around and get the priority things up and push things off so we don't have to deal with.
Our concerns isn't just isn't staffing, it's also quorum issues that we're gonna be running into. We know some people are not available,
Right,
and
You mean-
because of the multiple people not being available, we already know there's not quorums for certain.
yeah.
So is there
And
any,
if we can't make a quorum, then everything just gets pushed off anyway. I mean, that's not saying that we're gonna actually plan, but,
Okay,
so is it
Oh.
possible for council to allow call-ins to meetings? Because like, I will be out of town, but I would be willing to do that, especially to help make a quorum. Like, I watched the last PACCAP meeting, and I believe it's Bruce, didn't really feel comfortable because he had like 4 people, but he had one on the phone, and it was like, okay, you could have pushed it over the scales, with that extra input. So, like, is that a
well,
possibility to council?
PACCAB is different than us.
Well, I understand the same thing, though,
Right.
they didn't have a quorum.
Hmm?
They didn't have a quorum, it was the same thing, or they did, but
No,
barely.
well, I mean, as far as a quasi-legal entity. I mean,
Okay.
they're an entity that just
They're an
supports the
advisory
city. We're a required
Okay, but same
entity,
idea,
and we fall under a much more restricted rules.
but that you can't call in or Zoom in to a meeting, because I understand we're not under an emergency
Right.
ordinance.
And if
But
that
is
is a
that-
statutory thing,
Oh,
that's
okay.
not even, but we can check into it to see, with
Yeah.
things just changing so much with COVID and
Right.
everything, we can
Right.
check to see if anything statutorily has changed.
Okay.
But we can talk about that to see what we can do.
Because that might help us have more meetings.
so
And
it's
it
fine.
would really be nice for the state to look at that whole concept, because, I mean, these things were all put in place when communication was completely different than it is today.
I would love.
And so at some point in
statutory
time,
Yeah,
that they just completely change those statutes, but until they do it, we're stuck with them.
got it.
And we could look into it, if there's some kind of thing, and I don't know if this, the city can, and then it might be depending on exactly what we're looking at. I mean, if we're not doing something that's, quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial, excuse me, but, CUPs are quasi-judicial, and they are, type of thing, so, anyway, all I can think is we're gonna have to play it by ear, but I do think if it looks like there's not gonna be a lot of people in December, that's traditionally we've taken December off.
Okay,
And
cause
then
you'll be gone in December,
I'm leaving,
Vanessa will be gone.
and I actually leave mid-November, or actually early November, so probably will make that first meeting, but
How long can you have a hiatus for? I mean, is it just restricted to a 30-day kind of thing, or can you have longer depending on people's schedules and?
there's no like that, I mean, like, cause even if you don't have a quorum, you don't have quorum. And, you know, we've run into that before where we just didn't have a quorum for several months and you start putting off and you know, getting it together. But, you know, I don't think we're really gonna have that problem. And then it really
Oh,
depends
yeah,
on what's.
new leadership now. So it's on your shoulder.
Not yet. You voted this morning?
Cindy's
Close
not
the
gone.
polls?
Cindy's not gone yet.
Yeah, but to make that easy, I mean, and then, you know, look at, I don't know who else is gonna be, you're gone.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
I'll be
You know, and then we'll know here fairly quickly whether Cindy's gone.
Right,
And,
What's
And-
Craig's status? I haven't seen him forever. Is he,
Who's,
so
Craig Ambersoni?
oh,
I barely got an email from him as well as Nathaniel around 5 o'clock, so I'd already left, but, so they did tell me they were gonna be gone tonight, just really late. And then I think Craig was taking his daughter out to school at this last meeting, but I didn't know that until after the fact.
Yeah, because I think he hadn't been here in like four some odd meetings.
Yeah.
no, he was here.
Was he?
Yeah, one of our last meetings, I can't remember which one.
In the July meeting, I think.
July?
But
That was last year, wasn't it? Fine.
anyway, I'm sure that if we're really short on people could be, you know,
Yeah.
work in advance, let them know and all that kind of jazz. So
Well, I'll put it as an agenda item then, and we can
Okay.
discuss at least
Great.
moving to take a break on December, and then we'll see.
Right,
Hopefully there'll be enough commissioners here that we can really get an idea of who will be here in January.
right.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.